We're spending 22 minutes today with Sebastian Stan, one of the stars of a fantastic, I never say that, a fantastic movie,
It's one of my favorite words.
Tonya. And for people who aren't familiar, I told my kids about it, and they were like, well, who's Tonya? I'm like, you don't know who Tonya Harding is? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Wow. It is riveting, and it's getting great buzz, too. How did you wind up playing the role of the infamous Jeff Gillooly?
Well, I had seen the 30 for 30 Price of Gold kind of recently, actually, around September of last year, but around the time that I received the script and the meeting to Skype with Craig Gillespie, who was the director at the time, and so everything was pretty fresh in my mind, but I was, yeah, I was kind of curious, intrigued, and sort of mystified by the whole thing, and just overall, I was already kind of obsessed with trying to find out who was telling the truth and what really happened, and so that curiosity was there for me from the very beginning. And then when I read the script, it was so sensationalized in ways, and then on top of that, the fact that it was a real story really made it even more bizarre and crazy, and it just seemed like a no-brainer to want to try and do it.
Sure. I mean, I remember talking about the story back before the 1994 Lillehammer Olympics, and it seemed unbelievable for people who don't know the story that this skater's husband, Jeff Gillooly, I just like saying Gillooly.
Yeah,
What
a name.
It just rolls off the tongue.
Right.
They hired somebody to kneecap Tonya Harding's skating rival, America's skating sweetheart, Nancy Kerrigan. And, you know, at the time, it was very black and white, the coverage of it. It was like Tonya bad, Nancy good.
Yeah.
But this movie, really, it tells you all about Tonya.
Yeah, well, again, it's you know, this movie is going to be, I think, interesting for people, even if you don't know anything about the story, or, you know, you do have some idea of what happened, or what you might have heard, and actually, anybody that I actually end up talking to, everyone has their own little point of view about it, and it's very funny to me because it's, nobody really knows what happened. But this, at least, is a screenplay based on the wildly contrasting interviews that Stephen Rogers, the screenwriter, had with Tonya and with Jeff. And the two of them just had a lot of different things to say about what happened. And at least on Jeff's side, it's kind of, I think, the first time that you really hear, you know, his point of view from it as well. And again, it's just a different take on maybe what you maybe don't know what happened, you know, or what you think happened.
So it is based on those interviews, because as
Very
I'm
much.
watching it, I'm saying, oh yeah, I kind of remember that, but wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, this is so actually it's a new take on the story as well that we haven't really heard before.
Yeah. Now, Jeff Gillooly, you actually met him before you
I did,
played the
yeah.
role?
I went to Portland, Oregon, about a week or two before we started shooting. I really wanted to go there. I wanted to go to the, you know, the ice rink where she started skating and where they met. I went to where they had their first date. You know, I just went to all these places that I just wanted to be there. And I hadn't really been in Portland. I wanted to get the accent, and of course, I wanted to find him.
Yeah. What'd you think of him? What kind of guy is he these days?
Well, listen, it's weird. I mean, it's like, it's strange when you're spending time researching somebody, and it was really hard for me to actually find a lot of stuff on him. I mean, there's a couple of things on YouTube, but I was trying to just piece together, you know, a life, a personality, and then you meet the person, and so it's a little bit like you're in the Twilight Zone, because you're looking at them and staring at them, and they kind of think you're weird. But look, he was just very, I think, taken aback as to why anybody wanted to make a movie out of the story. It seemed to me that he was sort of hesitant to, you know, kind of want to revisit this story altogether.
All these years later, I guess.
Yeah, and I was just saying to him, I was like, listen, I know it's your life, but like, it's a really, I just don't come across a screenplay like this. I really just, you know, from an acting perspective, like as an actor, I looked at that and I saw gold, you know, in the sense of the screenplay. But I just primarily wanted to, you know, I wanted to see his physicality. I just wanted to see what he looks like now. I wanted to see, you know, try to get an idea of how he grew up or what, you know, what he was like. I mean, that's your job, is when you're playing somebody that existed, you're just trying to piece together a life.
And his different iterations of facial hair.
Yeah, he definitely has a, yes, and yeah, exactly. I actually think I even asked him, I was like, where did you think the mustache was gonna, like, where did that idea come
Why?
from? I was like, was it Tom Selleck? Like, what? But he, you know, apparently, I guess that's what, it was kind of popular in the 90s, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, so now a lot of this, and a lot of the success of the movie, I would think, had to be based on the chemistry between you and Margot Robbie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which
for
is,
sure.
you play two people who are crazy in love, with the emphasis on the crazy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well,
What was that like working with her in those really, some really volatile scenes?
I mean, it's one of those things where sometimes as an actor, you really, you know, you really hope you don't have to audition. But I have to say, was so glad that I had to audition. I had to do this chemistry test with her, because it really informed me a lot. And I think both of us on that day in the room, about how we were going to approach this relationship, you know, and how we would work together. And it was dead apparent to me on that day that we, you know, there was always, maybe this is the wrong word, but there was always a lightheartedness that we both had to approaching this, because we knew that this was very intense material,
Right.
to some extent, and we, you know, we wanted to have a great sense of trust, and there was a lot of generosity, I think, on her part, but I always felt from the get-go that I just felt safe with her, you know, and that she was willing to go anywhere, and, you know, and sometimes that took us into fits of laughter that we couldn't stop for you know, a long time throughout shooting, and then other times, you know, we would kind of both sort of sit on one end and kind of not argue, but like go, well, you know, she would have known at this point. Well, no, actually, she didn't know at this point. And then and then Craig would have to come in and kind of go like, okay, guys, look, we got to tell the story.
Did she actually punch you once?
She says that, right?
I read an article that, like,
I'm sure
she got so carried away.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I'm sure she did, and I took it, well, you know, I welcomed it with all my heart. Listen, if Margot Robbie wants to hit me, she can do it anytime.
And how was it working with Allison Janney as the mom? Which there's so much that I didn't know about Tonya Harding.
Yeah.
I didn't know that she had a mom like that.
Well,
and that,
all you
that
got to do
explains
is
a whole lot of stuff.
Well, but that's the, you know, that's what's heartbreaking at the same time, is that I think one of the themes in this movie that's being explored is the fact that so oftentimes we seek the love that we get in childhood, or what we associate to be love. And, you know, sometimes, you know, the line between love and trauma is so small. And in this case, you could really understand from her point of view how embedded those two things were for her growing up. And yeah, and so the relationship that she had with her mother is very important, obviously, in the story, because it shaped, you know, for better or worse, who she was and how she approached her work, love or hate. And Allison, you know, is just like a force of nature who happens to have turned in performances that are unbelievable for decades at this point. And it's like watching her, for me, was more kind of like a masterclass in acting. That's how I remembered it, and really just trying not to crack up, because she had some of the greatest lines in this movie.
Great lines. Just watching her on the ice, smoking the little more cigarettes.
One of my favorite lines is when she's like, "Well, she's a soft 2." You're like, what does that even mean? It's like, you know,
describing the age of
she's a soft 2. Yeah, it's like great.
Yeah, it's crazy. And she feels that being mean to her daughter is going to extract a better performance from her on the ice, which is kind of messed up, too.
It is messed up, you know, but that's something that, you know, you always kind of, it's interesting to think about, isn't it? Like,
it is.
If you have a gun to your head, you know, are you going to run faster than if you're not? You know, like, it's just that mentality, I think, that Tonya very much, like, dealt with, which was that if she's always under pressure, or if she's always not feeling good about what she's doing, that she actually performed better. And, you know, that it's such a, I wouldn't want that kind of mentality, but that's one of the things that is being explored in the movie, is like what does that do to a person?
So there are these crazy violent scenes with you and with Jeff and Tonya, and then you use the word lighthearted. I don't think that's the wrong word, because there are some lighter moments between the two of them.
Right.
There's one scene in particular which really struck me where I guess one of their first dates, and he says of her skating, like, you have a superhero power, like you have a
superhero
superpower.
power. Yeah, superpower.
And
yeah.
she just,
right.
oh, opens up to that.
Well, look, I really, it was very difficult for me not to judge that character, like when I first read it, particularly because of the way he was written in the script. Take away what you heard or what you don't heard. Like in the script, he was all these things that you end up seeing in this movie at this point, and but I had to kind of, like, in order for me to kind of do my job, I had to sort of find something that I could kind of grab onto to find a way in, I guess. And my only way in was that this was just somebody who seemed to me to be in awe of her, and very much kind of probably did love her, or they did have some love relationship, as toxic as it was, but perhaps was ill-equipped to really deal with those emotions, and ultimately the fame that they both, I think that all the people involved were ill-equipped to deal with the fame that they got. As if you look back in the 90s, most people that were famous for 15 minutes seemed to not be able to handle it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think there was, for us in the movie, we needed to find that lightheartedness in terms of mixing the violent aspects of it with something that's a little bit more on the comedic side. Otherwise, I just don't think it would be watchable.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would be too much of a documentary. I use the
Yeah.
word superhero, superpowers. That's my cheap segue to get into your
yes.
other part of your movie career, the Marvel movie. So another
Yeah.
Avenger movie is coming out next year.
It's coming out tomorrow. I mean, it's coming out next year. Tomorrow's the trailer for
Oh, is it?
yeah,
Oh,
for the
big
Infinity
debut.
War, which is going to be, I saw it yesterday, actually. I was in Atlanta, and I was, it's interesting when you're in the movie and then you're watching the movie and you forget you're in the movie. You're just caught up in, the spectacle of it. But
I don't think Marvel fans they're not going to forget that this is coming out. This is a big thing. Is this the movie next year where they're just a whole bunch of characters
it's
from the
everyone.
universe?
I mean,
Everybody.
it really is everyone from the get-go. You're talking about packaging 10 years worth of relationships and characters and histories into 2.5-hour movie. I mean, the way that they did it, I haven't seen it, but the way that they've done that is kind of, I'm blown away by it.
And the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians are in it.
They're in it. Everybody.
Doctor Strange is in it. I mean, yeah, I'm sure I'm leaving somebody
Marvel
out.
Palooza.
It is like that,
on
yeah.
screen. And you, of course, played Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. Is it true that you actually read for the part of Captain America? I did. You did? Okay.
Yeah, I
Because sometimes
did.
those stories are apocryphal, but that
Yeah.
happens to be a true one.
Yeah, I did. And yeah, and it's actually funny because I when it happened, it obviously didn't go my way, but I ended up having a meeting with Kevin Feige afterwards, and he started talking to me about Bucky Barnes instead. And I think he was just sort of gauging my interest in it, which, from the start he had, because I think this is the only role I could have played, really. I mean, I'm so biased now at this point, I don't picture myself really having played any other role. But he did say to me recently that when I walked out of that meeting, he said, well, we didn't know whether you could really play Bucky Barnes, but we knew that you could definitely play the Winter Soldier. So that was, I guess that's what kind of led to them hiring me there.
Yeah, so then when you get a deal like that to play that character in that universe with all these different movies coming out, do you say to yourself, jackpot, like this is the greatest thing? Or does it become a little bit trickier than to manage your career and to have the time to do other movies and other projects like Tonya?
Well, I think it's both. I really do. I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, the thing with Marvel is that I never really knew. I mean, yes, I was looking back now when I trace back the steps. I look at 2010 when it was the Captain America movie, and I realized how blessed I was because it no doubt had an impact on me even being in this movie and talking to you now. But at the same time, I never really knew that because they very much have, even though they have had a long-term plan, it seems to me they very much operate movie by movie. And so it's actually, we never knew we were going to make a Winter Soldier movie. You know, we never knew that my character was going to get this far.
Right.
I certainly didn't. And so it's always been more of a humbling experience that way. And at the same time, yeah, I think now it's just such a blessing that I was granted this ability to kind of pop in and work on that character and then try to find something that's a little bit different. And this I, Tonya movie was exactly that.
Yeah. Now, if you Google Sebastian Stan, I suspect you probably don't do that, but
Not when I, you know, not unless I want an anxiety attack.
Well, I hope this isn't one of the things that gives you anxiety, but a lot of articles come up. Luke Skywalker, you know, Mark Hamill,
right.
you know, side-by-side pictures of you and a young
Yeah.
Mark Hamill, and that you would be the perfect choice to play Luke Skywalker and a young Luke, as they're now having the young Han Solo movie. Do you like that or do you hate that? Because sometimes I would think people be like, why do you say I look just like that person? I do not look just like that person.
I'm very okay with
You're
that.
okay with that?
Yeah, I really am very okay with it. But, you know, my friend recently ruined it for me. He goes, yeah, but, like, I feel like you would be like a middle-aged Luke Skywalker. Because you're not really young, if you think about it. And also, and I was like, that's right. And then he was like, and they've already done a young Luke Skywalker movie. And that's true. Like, I was looking at it going like, well, we have young Luke Skywalker with Mark Hamill in the originals. But what they don't have is what happens after Return of the Jedi, when I guess he would be middle-aged. And then if they ever were to...
Middle-aged being 30s. In a young person's world, that's what...
Yeah, I'm just saying, if they ever really wanted to potentially visit what happened to him after those movies, then, you know, give me a call.
Is there any... But there's no serious talk about it right now, is there? Or is there?
Look, I mean, everything begins in the imagination, right? I mean, it's all like...
Well, that sounds like a yes.
You got to visualize the goals, and that's what needs to happen. So.
Has J.J. Abrams or somebody been calling you about it?
No, but they should.
They should.
No, they haven't. I don't know. You know, I mean, look, Marvel and Disney are on the same lot, so I keep going to the Disney side and use their Starbucks in order to hopefully run into somebody. But
Okay,
I haven't
all
done that
right.
yet.
Okay, well, we'll see how that works out. We are, you know, a New York City radio station, so I got to get the little local flavor in here. So you were born in Romania.
Right.
Raised in Rockland?
Yes, I came in Rockland County, New York, in Congress and Nyack. I came in 1995.
And then to Rutgers?
Rutgers University.
And then from Rutgers to Hollywood. Now, how did you make the transition from...
More like 42nd and 8th, but yeah. That was my first apartment, was on 42nd and 8th, across from Port Authority. $800 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in 2005.
You probably saw some interesting things happening at the,
it was amazing.
At the Port Authority.
No, it was great. I mean, look, I walked out and the movie theaters were right there. I mean, I haven't left New York yet, and actually, I'm really happy about that because I used to always hear the number 9. People always used to say it was 9 years that you had to be in New York in order to consider yourself a real New Yorker.
Oh,
New
really?
York City.
Huh.
So I've gotten past 9. So I guess hopefully now I'm a New Yorker.
How did you make the transition though? Like, what would you consider sort of your breakthrough role when you said, okay, you know, I am going to make a career of this this acting thing?
Well, it was kind of around 2005. I mean, there was a movie there called The Architect, and I got that the summer that I moved into the city, and that felt pretty good. I mean, it felt kind of like I was doing the right thing, but I guess I always knew I wanted to do this in some capacity because I never really felt like I was honestly good at anything else. I mean, it was the only thing that kind of really engaged my attention in such a strong way. So, you know, I guess I don't know. I never really thought of how else it would have turned out had this not happened. So
yeah, too many acting credits to even get into in our 22 minutes.
I don't know about that.
But you
thank you.
You have a new one coming up too with Mandy Moore and J.K.
Oh yeah,
Simmons?
yes, of course, yes,
Okay.
yes. That's right. J.K. Simmons, yeah, and Mandy Moore. It was a sweet little movie that we did about a year ago that I'm really still hoping will come out at some point.
And in the meantime, I, Tonya, and this made its premiere at the Toronto
Film Festival.
Now
Right.
that's a big deal, right? To get a slot like that to premiere a movie.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd been to Toronto Film Festival one other time, and it was a great experience. But yeah, we were happy. Listen, we were happy about it because we shot this movie this year. We shot it in January of this year.
In 31 days, is that
in 31
true?
days,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
And so the fact that now I'm here with you talking about it in the same year that we shot it is just kind of wild. It doesn't usually happen like that. So, so Toronto was great for us because it was, it came right at the right time, and then it got people, got people talking about the movie.
A lot of buzz, Oscar buzz. Does that put kind of a pressure on you at all, or have to live up to expectations or something?
I don't really. Listen, I don't have anything to compare it to. I've never really been in a situation where I've certainly been, I've been in films that were nominated and won things before, but I was never involved to this extent in them before. So I don't have a comparison. I don't have anything to really kind of like judge it by. I take it, as it comes. But the work is done. Like, we can't reshoot the movie. We can't go back and change things. I mean, the movie's finished. Now we're just happy it's out there, and it's on everybody else to kind of decide how they feel on it.
Well, I can't wait to get home today and watch the last hour of it and really enjoy it.
Seen the last hour?
I have to go
that's
to bed.
right. Yeah, of course.
It's a sad life. I go to bed
No,
very early,
it's
but
good.
it's just riveting. It's terrific. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
my
coming in,
pleasure.
Sebastian.
Thanks for having me.
I, Tonya, the movie.
Yes.
Go see it, everybody.